Hey Space, welcome and thank you for coming today to speak to the French community. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. You're back home right now in New York City. How does it feel?
It's good. I just got back, so my room's a little bit messy, but I'm excited to be here. I'm happy. I haven't been home in a year, so I'm just looking forward to doing that.
What did you miss the most from home?
Definitely my family. You know, it's like you go away for so long, so it's hard. You know, it's hard to stay away from your family for that long. But once you get back, you know, you get to see everybody and just go see everyone that you haven't seen in a few years.
When you were playing at Los Angeles, did they come to see you play?
Not recently because of COVID, so it was like a little bit harder to travel. But I have a lot of family out in Los Angeles that I spend time with. I have like aunts and uncles that I grew up with when I was a little kid. So I get to see them a lot in Los Angeles, but I haven't seen my New York family in LA in a while.
So you're going to enjoy your time with them right now. Yeah. Space, I would like to start asking you a favor. Please, could you give a present to an absolute fan of Gladiators? This fan is Début, who has been a French caster since the start of the OWL. And whether Glad's results are good or bad, he has always supported the team. So can you look at the camera and talk directly to Début and say something like, Adi, merci pour ton soutien, même quand on joue mal. Which means, Début, thank you for your support, even when we play badly.
Yeah, okay, Début, I'll try my best. All right. So, Début, merci pour ton soutien, même quand on joue mal.
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. Well done. Well done. And thank you for him. He will be delighted, honestly. And he's going to tell us about it all year. So yeah, he's a big fan of Glad. And talking about French, Space, back in 2017, 2018 with Los Angeles Valiant, you played, or at least you worked with Soon and uNKOE. What do you remember about them?
So Soon and uNKOE, that was a long time ago. I was like 17 years old actually when I first started playing with them. But the French players, and we had Damon as one of our coaches too, was another person I worked with. But Soon and uNKOE basically taught me a lot about what it meant to be a professional. Because when I had first gone pro, I was more of just someone that played like video games. I was just a gamer, and the French people had a different mentality on it. You know, it was really their job and it was their life, and so they taught me a lot about what it meant to be a professional and not just a gamer. So I'll always thank them for that, because you know I wouldn't have had my professional manner if it wasn't for Soon and uNKOE. So that was the number one thing I took away from them.
Overwatch was your first game?
My first professional game. Yeah. I've been playing games my whole life, but Overwatch was when I actually went pro, and so my mentality was very like, oh, you know, I just get to play games for fun and, you know, make money doing it. But the French players, Soon and uNKOE, were like, no, like this is what we do for life. Like we want to win, and you know we want to be professionals, and we can see that you want to be professional too, and this is how you do it. And you know I took a lot away from them. Yeah,
and now they're on Valorant. I hope you won't follow them, almost, at least not right now, but you will stay a bit more in Overwatch League. So Space, I would like to talk about the World Cup, the Overwatch World Cup, and 2019 that Team USA won brilliantly. Does this remain your strongest memory on Overwatch?
Yeah, definitely one of my favorite memories ever is just playing in the World Cup, and being able to represent my country is an honor, you know, so playing on that stage in front of that crowd it's a blessing, and you get to play with players that, you know, I haven't really been on a team with before in Overwatch League, so I get to play with a lot of players from different teams and learn from them and work with other coaches. So just overall, it's a great experience, and it's definitely going to stay with me for the rest of my life, was winning that World Cup.
Emotionally speaking, is it something different to wear the US jersey? Is it more pressure when especially you play in Los Angeles in front of your own crowd?
Yeah, it's a lot to take in for sure. I think it makes it a lot easier when you get to play with people that you've known for so long. Since I played with those guys for like 5 or 6 years, and I know all of them. We're close friends, everybody on the team, on Team USA. So it makes it a lot easier for us to just kind of get that bond, you know, and it makes it less pressure on yourself. But yeah, it's definitely different when you put on the USA jersey for sure.
And with Team USA, you were almost unbeatable during the 2019 World Cup.
Yeah, Yeah, for sure. We were coming off of San Francisco winning Overwatch League, so those guys really wanted to win World Cup, and they kind of just carried that mentality into the World Cup, and we just took it from there.
So, Space, you won the World Cup, but can you remind me which was the first team to defeat South Korea in a World Cup, please?
The first team to ever beat South Korea? It was definitely the French.
Yes.
The French team was the first team. I actually remember that because we were right next to them in the group stages. We had like a whole bunch of PCs all in one area, and we were the room across from the French team. And so when they were playing, the French team just got super loud, and everyone was going crazy in there when they won that match. So I remember that one.
What did you think when they won? Did you think that, okay, we're going to win the World Cup now?
Yeah, I think that for everyone was just, we knew that this year South Korea was not looking as strong as they always have, and that everybody else has gotten a lot better. Because of the league, especially, the level of play in Overwatch has just been improving. Like, it just keeps going up and up and up. So I think, a lot of the other teams caught up to South Korea, and it made us more confident.
Yeah, this is our gold medal because we are not able to win the World Cup, but we will forever be the first team to beat South Korea. So it means a lot for us because, in France, the World Cup has always been very important for the fans, for sure, and for the players too. Is it the same in US? Yeah,
definitely. I think the fans really love the World Cup, and they really appreciate the players and the team. I think the passion that the French show for the World Cup is unmatched because I've seen that crowd before, and I wish we could have played in front of the crowd in France, but sadly we couldn't. But I know that that passion for their players is different, and the energy that you guys give to the crowd is insane. I think nobody else can match that. So,
but you can come whenever you want, Space.
I will definitely come. I hope that there's an event soon in Europe so I can meet a lot of my European fans that I've never had the opportunity to meet.
Have you been missing the Overwatch World Cup? I mean, would you like to be able to defend your title with Team USA, or the schedule is already heavy enough like that for an OWL player?
Yeah, I think for us, a lot of the guys said that the ones that played that year when we actually got the gold, a lot of us felt like that was a big enough accomplishment, and you actually want to spend some time to take a break from competing in Overwatch League, because what happens usually is you play Overwatch League, and then like a month later or a month and a half later after the season ends, we start doing trials for World Cup. And so then once you do trials for World Cup, if you make it, you're just instantly playing more Overwatch. So this year, like if there were to be a World Cup, I probably wouldn't play just because I want to break. And I know that there's a lot more talents in USA. Like we have Hawk now, who's a really good off-tank player who could easily compete in the World Cup. So, I would be fine with not trialing this year and actually spending more of a break since we actually won the World Cup in 2019.
Yeah, and it's a way as well for the rookie to show themselves. That was the fact in France for FD God, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're missing the World Cup. And last question about it. Do you prefer a low-budget Overwatch World Cup like the one in 2019, or no Overwatch World Cup at all?
I would definitely always prefer a World Cup. I think the World Cup it's an opportunity to show players skill from all over the world. You get a lot of new talents, and you get to watch Overwatch League prospects play in the World Cup. There's a lot of places where they don't really get to show how good they are at competing, and in the World Cup they get to do that. So I think it's just overall such an amazing experience, and I know that the fans love the World Cup. We get to represent everybody and play for everybody. So I would always want a World Cup every year if possible. Yeah,
as we do, and that's also the way to represent his country, and it means a lot for everyone as well.
Yeah.
Space, now let's talk about the Overwatch League. During the regular season, there were 4 tournaments. Dallas Fuel won the May Melee, Shanghai the June Just and the Summer Showdown, and Los Angeles Gladiators won the last one, the Countdown Cup. What does it mean for you and Gladiators to be part of the 3 teams who have won a title this season? Is it important because Glada had made a big investment over the years, and this season you had a lot of ambitions?
Yeah, definitely, it was a big moment for us, especially as an organization, because I think it was the first stage that the Gladiators have ever won as an organization. Was that stage? So it was our first time ever winning one of those tournaments. So I think for the organization, it was really big, and for the players, it was really big for us because it had kind of showed the hard work that we've been putting in behind the scenes, where a lot of people hadn't really seen, or we weren't really living up to our expectations. I feel like that Countdown Cup, we kind of showed that we were a really strong team and that we were forced to be reckoned with coming into playoffs. So it definitely meant a lot to us for sure overall.
As you said, I think that during this Countdown Cup, you guys played incredibly well. Maybe your best Overwatch of the season. What do you think? What happened?
I think just it took a lot of mental strength from us. You know, we learned a lot from the last two stages before it. And just we kind of understood that. For me personally, I understood that whenever we lose, it's more to ourselves and not to the other team. It's not the other team playing really well, or it's not the other team being better than us. It's just that the Gladiators made a lot of mistakes, like mentally or in the game. We didn't sync up together. So I just kept telling all my teammates that, you know, when we lose, it's to ourselves. So, you know, if we play our hardest and we make sure that we don't make any mistakes, we can't lose, you know. So that's kind of the mentality we had coming into the Countdown Cup, and it just showed that our hard work kind of paid off. So I was really happy about that.
Yeah, and as we do, and Début as well was crazy when you won. Do you think you played as good during the final playoff than in the Countdown Cup?
No, not at all. And I think the reason we lost in playoffs is the same as I said before. It's just we didn't play to our standards, and we lost to ourselves. I think the Shanghai match that we had was probably our quickest loss we ever had. We barely played the other maps like Numbani and Havana. We barely got to play. We barely pushed it. So I feel like just it wasn't the team that I know, like the Gladiators that performed wasn't the team that I had expectations for. And I think the Atlanta match also was just us making a lot of mistakes that were uncharacteristic, like mistakes that we shouldn't have made or that we hadn't made before we made in that match. So I just feel like a lot of it was on us personally and that we underperformed.
Talking about the Dragons and your loss against them 3-1 in the winner bracket, how do you recover from a defeat like that? I mean, did you have PTSD or were you just like GG, go next? Because you had a lot of ambitions for this playoff, and when you lose like this against Shanghai, do you keep in mind that if you want to win the OWL, you will probably have to face the Dragon again, or no, you just focus on the next games?
Yeah, it was definitely just one of those situations where we had to focus on the next game, because once we figured out that we were playing Atlanta, we knew that Atlanta's playstyle is completely different from Shanghai's. It's not the same at all. So we have to focus on Atlanta. I think we all knew that we would have to play Shanghai again no matter what. But the mentality that you had to have coming into playoffs was just to take it map by map and day by day. So we immediately started to focus on Atlanta, and then we knew, like, okay, when Shanghai comes back up, we'll go over them again, and we'll make sure that we actually play to our standard and then we play our game.
So that's the theory you're talking about, but on the field, I mean, when you lost to Shanghai, can you play not thinking about it? I mean, it must have been really tough.
Yeah, I think it's hard, but for me, I think I knew that the match that we showed that day wasn't as good as we could have played. So I knew that no matter what happens, that we need to play better than that. You know, for me personally, I think maybe for others it might be a little bit hard. You might struggle a little bit, but I think I just knew, like, instantly when the series was over, like, okay, that wasn't the Gladiators. You know, we need to do better than that, and I know we can play better than that.
Space, I remember just before the grand final between Shanghai Dragons and Atlanta, you said, I believe that Atlanta will win. So don't get me wrong, Space, I love Atlanta and I praise them all season long, but come on, Space. You played both teams in playoff. Were you really serious thinking Atlanta could win against the Dragons?
Yeah, actually, so I'll explain my reasoning a little bit. I felt like out of all the teams that made it, you know, besides us, of course, when it came down to Dallas, Shock, and Atlanta, when those were the three teams in the losers bracket, I thought out of those three teams, whoever made it, the team that had the best chance to win was Atlanta, because Shanghai already played against Dallas, and that series was quick and decisive. I think Dallas plays the dive matchup, which nobody can win against Shanghai in the dive matchup. So I think there was no way that Dallas was going to win. I think Shock already played against Shanghai. I thought, there's no way that Shock's going to win that unless they get super lucky. And Atlanta was the one team that hadn't played against Shanghai yet. And Atlanta has a super different play style from the other teams. So I thought, if Atlanta plays their best, there's a potential that they could win out of everybody. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I think for me, it was either going to be a super close game for Atlanta, or it was going to be, how it was, which was like a 4-0 decisive victory. But I thought out of every team that made it, Atlanta had the best chance of winning. So, I believed in them. I thought for sure they could do it. But I think Shanghai probably had too much time to get used to Atlanta, because they got to see all the matches. So they kind of understood okay, this is how they play. This is how we're going to play. But if it was more of a surprise factor, then I think Atlanta had a chance.
Yeah, I believe too. I mean, I bet Atlanta won, I think it was 4-3, but in the end, I really think that the Shanghai Dragons were above every other teams in 2021. Do you think the same? And if yes, what do they have that the other teams don't?
Yeah, I definitely think overall the whole season, Shanghai had always been on another level and was definitely clearly in playoffs. They showed that they were ahead of everybody and it wasn't really close. I think we had a chance of beating them if we played our best, and if we got a rematch, we had a chance of making it a much closer game than what it was, and that there was a potential of us winning. But I just think that they have a great coaching staff, and they have great players, and they have a really strong work ethic. They work really hard, and they practice really hard. So it shows whenever they play their matches that they're a very dominant team. And I think they control the tempo of the match very fast, And if you haven't played against that before, then it's going to be super hard for you to survive against them. So I think that's kind of why they're on a whole other level when it comes to competing.
Yeah, and they deserve the title. Some of my subscribers, my community, they said Shanghai Dragons just finished Overwatch 1.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful story as well. Thinking that they started losing 42 matches in a row. Space, considering the fact that the OWL level has never been as high as this season, what do you think about Los Angeles Gladiators 2021 season?
I think for me, we definitely improved a lot since the start. I think coming into this year, everyone had super high expectations for us, and sadly, we didn't live up to them. But I know out of all the teams in playoffs, everyone expected us to make it to finals, or at least to be in the finals, the grand finals. So I was really sad that we didn't actually do that, because I felt like we underperformed in playoffs when it mattered most. But I feel like for me, the style that we came into it and the mentality we had as a team this year is the best I've ever played on. So I was really happy about that the players were really close and the coaches were really close with us, and that, the style that we played reflected a lot on our personalities.
So what have you missed this season to do even better?
I think a lot of it is more like mentality. I think for sure this year in general, the teams that did really well had good mentalities coming into their matches, and that a lot of it was a mental battle, because as you said, I believe the level of play is super, super high in the league now, and I don't think the level of play will separate you. I think it's more about who is mentally the strongest and who can survive the long games and the hard games against the good teams. So a lot of it is just having a really good mental during your matches and during practice, and making sure that your players get used to each other fast, with going over mistakes and being comfortable with each other, and being able to say anything, which is what the French players do really well. And I learned that from uNKOE and Soon, is just being open and honest about everyone's play and everyone's mistakes, so that we can improve as a unit. And that's something that's very important.
And is it something for you which is natural to be strong mentally speaking? Because you're kind of the Gladiators leader.
Yeah, I think I'm just super competitive, and I don't like losing games that I feel like I shouldn't have lost, you know? So a lot of times when there was like big upset losses or matches that people feel like, you know, there's no way we should have lost that game, I think that kind of just triggers inside of me like, okay, you know, I need to step it up and I need to make sure that, you know, this doesn't happen again. And the best way I can do that is by leading and kind of giving other players my mentality of just like, you know, we're competitors. We play to win. We don't play just to be here. You know, we're not here to just have fun. We're here to win a championship. And, you know, I kind of just show that to the other guys, and it makes us all play better as a team.
Is it something you have developed over the year, this leadership?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely. It took a long time for sure for me to kind of find that in myself, because I always looked at myself not really as a leader, but more as like an older brother or like someone that people can look up to and just know that, you know, I'm always working my hardest. But to kind of come into the leadership role and, you know, actually like call other people out for their mistakes and be able to like, you know, tell players like as a whole that this is how we play and this is what we do and this is kind of the environment that I want to build for my team. It takes a lot. It's a big learning experience, and it's different for me, you know, so it's something new for me. But I think overall, I did a good job. I could have done a much better job. I always feel like I could do more throughout the year. I always think I could do more, but it's something that's been naturally inside me, and now I'm actually trying to work on it more.
And how do you work on that? I mean, how do you work on your mental? Do you talk with the coaches? Do you talk with specialist people about that?
Yeah.
How do you do?
Yeah, it definitely a lot of research just about, I think, great athletes and great competitors. And, you know, I watch stuff on head coaches and other players that, you know, have been put into that role before, and just a lot of research on that. And then I also, you know, I talk to my coaches. I talk to Deepe because he's someone that's been learning a lot about what it means to be a leader and what it means to be a coach. And just other people that are important in my life that I go through my life day to day with, just like how to be a better leader. And then I think a lot of it is just what would I do? Putting myself in other people's shoes and putting myself in their position, and, you know, speaking openly about it, and, you know, not just kind of watching it happen or like, you know, being on the sidelines, you know, just making sure that you're always in the front and you're always ahead of everything, and, you know, just working on it from there.
And do you have an example, I mean, in sports industry or other people?
An example of someone that I look to, or I think probably the biggest example for me has been, I don't know if you've seen The Last Dance by the Michael Jordan documentary.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, on Netflix. Yeah, I think I took a lot from that because, you know, Michael Jordan is like a crazy leader, one of the best competitors of all time. He led in a much different way than I do, obviously, but, you know, I kind of learned a lot of just how to fill that role especially with like a good mentality of being a competitor. And I've done a lot of research on Phil Jackson, who was Michael Jordan's head coach, and I'm trying to get my hands on his book. He has a book about like being a leader and a competitor called 11 Rings that I've been wanting to read for a while now. And that, I think that'll also help me, you know, just become a better leader for my competition.
And so to resume your season, what do you think about your 2021 season? You got the Roll Stars this season.
Yeah, I think, you know, I was honored to get it. I was a little bit surprised to get it because I feel like there's so many good tank players this year, and there's so many players that deserve it. You know, I think every year it's so hard to decide who gets Roll Star because there are just so many players that deserve it. But I was really happy to get it. I think a little bit more came into it than just like me having a really good season. I think a lot of people voted because they knew that I was a big leader for the Gladiators and that my leadership kind of influenced how well we performed throughout the year. So I think a lot of people voted on me because of that. So I was happy to get that and get that recognition, and I earned Roll Star because of it.
Yeah, but that's part of a complete player. I mean, it's not just to be good mechanically speaking.
Yeah, for sure.
So with Los Angeles Gladiators this season, you played 26 games. The pace of the OWL is not easy. There is also pressure and a lot of burnout. You who have been there for a while, how do you deal with all of this? I mean, what do you have to pay attention to, Alden?
I think for me, I've learned so much over the 4 years, 5 years that I've been playing. I'm definitely, like you said, a veteran at this point. So the biggest thing that I've learned and what helps me most is to make sure that I work and I play hard and I practice hard, and then I kind of stay away from the computer and I go do other things. Whether it be like exercising or going out to see my family, or going on a hike or going on a run, and just staying away from the computer, because you don't want to burn out, like you said. Otherwise you'll just get really tired and it'll be hard to work every day. So just kind of balancing my lifestyle has been the most important thing for me, and just making sure that I'm not always Overwatch 24/7, because like you said, that'll make you burn out fast.
And is it something you've been helping for?
Yeah, definitely.
For, I mean.
Yeah, for sure. It took a long time to kind of realize that as a person and as a player, but we have a physical therapist that we work with on our team, who kind of helps us with all of that kind of stuff, and just like individualizing yourself and making sure that you aren't playing too much, because you will burn out eventually.
Yeah, which is not the case for every team.
Yeah.
So yeah, Space, you've spent your entire career playing for Los Angeles. First Valiant and then Gladiators. Is it easy to switch from a LA team to another? I mean, fans were not too upset?
I think because it was me, fans weren't that upset, because I think I've been in a lot of the battles for Los Angeles, and I've always played at a really high level in those games. And so people weren't really upset when it was me that was going to the Gladiators, or if I was on the Valiant, So I think, and just representing LA my whole career, I think I've gotten, close with all the fans, whether you're a Gladiators fan or a Valiant fan. I'm very close with both sides and both players on each team. So, it was just an honor for me to be able to be able to represent both LA teams, because coming into the league, my goal was to either play for New York, which is where I'm from, New York City, so the Excelsior team, or to play for Los Angeles, because as I said, it's like a second home to me. I have a lot of family there in LA that I grew up with, so I wanted to play somewhere that felt close to home, that wasn't too far away from my comfort zone. So to be able to play for LA all the years of my career has just been an honor.
Yeah, but talking about New York Excelsior, it's not that close to your home, because they are playing in South Korea right now. So that's
yeah. Maybe one year it'll be more of like a Western mixed roster.
Yeah.
And we'll actually get to play in New York, and then we'll see what happens from there.
Maybe next one. We don't really know. They released almost all the teams. Yeah. So yeah, even Jonak left the team. He's now a free agent. So
yeah, it's they're doing a whole rebuild.
Yeah, he's a legend, and it's honestly it's something to see him leaving the New York Excelsior. With Gladiator, with Valiant, and in the OWL in general, you said you have a real status, a real leadership in the Gladiators. You have also a very good image. Do you feel that it's something important as a player?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely keeping a good image and building your brand and your character, and kind of figuring out what you're known for, and also just being yourself, I feel like is very important. I'm super competitive, and I'm very passionate about what I do, and I want to win, and I think that's what shows, and that's what people know me for, is just being a player who's very competitive and wants to win. And that's why people watch my streams, that's why they follow me on my social medias, is because that's what you're going to get, is that passion and that love for Overwatch. So, I think a lot of players, it takes a little bit longer for them to find themselves, and to realize that what the fans want is your personality. But when you do it, you feel much more comfortable with competing.
And you talked about the passion, your love for Overwatch. Is it still here after 5 years?
Definitely. Yeah, I think it'll always be there, because competing in Overwatch is different than just playing Overwatch. I think it's something that I wish everyone could experience it, because competing in Overwatch and playing with 5 other players, and syncing together and really being a team, and like bonding together as a team, is something that you can't experience just by playing ranked or just by playing quick play. You'll never really get to experience what Overwatch is if you never play on a team before. So I think that's what really keeps a lot of us here for 5 years or 6 years, is just that we get to play together with your brothers, with your family, you get to build something every year and compete, and there's nothing like it.
So we know Space, the player, a little bit more, I hope, with this interview. But what about Space, the man? If you have to do a self-portrait of yourself, what would you say as a person?
Yeah, so thinking about this, I think I've changed definitely over the years, and a lot of it has changed because of Overwatch League. So I've kind of found myself more because I've been a competitor. But some of the things that I'm into is a lot of sneakers, a lot of fashion. I love clothes, I love sneakers, I love food. Those are the things that just kind of individualize me. If you've seen my social media or like my Instagram or my Twitter, a lot of it is just about clothes and fashion, just stuff like that. I like anime a lot. A lot of people don't know that. They don't know that I love anime. I've been watching since I was like 14 years old. So that's something new. I've never said that in an interview either. My favorite is Hunter x Hunter.
What?
My number one, Hunter x Hunter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Hunter x Hunter is my favorite anime. But yeah, I've been watching since I was a kid. And I've recently gotten into more exercising and lifting, like gym kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been doing it, as you can see. I haven't been doing it as much as I want to. But yeah, I'm more into exercising now too.
Yeah, talking about clothes and sneakers and fashion in general, I saw an interview where you said that as a child you were a model, right?
Yeah, I was a model. I've modeled. So it's a funny story actually. In New York, it's very common in the city that model agencies are like scouters. They will, look for. They will look. It sounds a little bit creepy, but my mom has been approached multiple times by like agencies and scouters because as kids we were very beautiful kids. My sisters before me, they modeled, so that's kind of how I got into it. Is that my sisters were models, and then as I grew up, they were models. But I remember she told me that a scout had came up to her on the street, like at a park, and said, "Oh my God, your son is so beautiful. He's so beautiful. Like, come, let him model for us. Let him model for us." And that's kind of how it happened. It was just that it just worked out like naturally, and that I've modeled for Gap before, and for Timberland, and a lot of other brands. And I did it since I stopped when I was around like 15, and that's more when I played video games and wanted to go professional around that time.
And maybe you can give Ben Best a few advices because he's trying to launch his model career.
Yeah, I mean he definitely has the looks for it for sure. He could do it. He could definitely do it.
And so you create as well your own clothes.
Yeah, that was definitely something new for me, was designing and creating my own clothes. And I just learned a lot about the process behind it and, working on some stuff like that. I've never done it before, and I'm going to do it more. I'm definitely going to make more of it and do more clothes, more distribution and that stuff. But it was just a new avenue for me to kind of express myself with.
Space, what would you have done if you didn't become a pro player?
If I wasn't a pro player... Interesting. I think for me, I've never been really big on school personally. I wasn't really the greatest student, not because I wasn't smart enough, but just mainly because I felt like I like to do one thing with my life. I just want to find one thing that I like and then kind of focus on that. So I think I would have tried to figure that out, what I like. And, I'm really into shoes, really into fashion, really into clothing. And I think I would have tried to find something related to that and then figured it out from there. I'm also very interested in computers. That was one of the things that I wanted to do was, either be a coder or a programmer or a professional gamer and, work on computers because I love computers. And that's kind of what started my career, is just my love for computers.
You said as well in this interview that you want to be known for more than just an Overwatch player. What does it mean?
I think I just want to be more than just a professional player and more than just a league player, just someone that had an Overwatch career. I also think esports is such a new like job, and it's a new community that's still growing. And I want to leave a bigger impact on esports than just being an Overwatch professional, in any way possible, whether that's with like clothing or it's with like gear or with coaching or like, looking more into mentality stuff of like what it's like to be a professional. I think, I want to do something more than just be a player, and that's it.
And you're working on all of that to have the choice. I mean, at the end of your career, you're already thinking about that.
Yeah, definitely. Every day I try and think of what I want to do more than just being a player.
So, Space, you've talked about yourself. Now, I would like you to tell us a few words about each player of the Los Angeles Gladiators squad this year. So you can start by who you want.
Okay. So I'll start with Moth, one of my favorite players of all time. I've said it a lot on my stream, and I say it to him all the time, that Moth has been, to me, he's personally like one of my role models and one of my idols, and one of the players that I look up to in terms of like being a professional and being a competitor and being a leader, you know, because Moth is super good at that, and he's one of the best teammates I've ever had in just terms of mentality. And then, you know, I'll do Kevster, the Swedish god, the Tracer god. Anybody that plays Tracer against him in a 1v1, they cannot win. Just really a mechanical superstar, and, you know, someone that I honestly didn't think that I would see him in person. You know, I never knew if he would ever come to the States. Yeah, but he is a real person. We finally confirmed it. And he's just been like a little brother to me, and, you know, someone that I love a lot. So I'm really happy that, you know, he finally gets to show his skills on a stage.
He's a funny guy as well.
Yeah, he's a big troll. He's a big troll. Everyone wants him to stream, but, you know, he's been holding it off. But maybe one day he'll actually do it, so people get to know him more. Yeah,
the best player in Europe for me, I think Kevster is. He's an amazing player. Next one.
We could do Mir. Mir is another one that he's been my roommate since I joined Gladiators. So whenever we travel or whenever we're living together, Mir has always been my roommate. So he's just like another brother to me, and someone that I've watched grow up over the years, because I think Mir was very similar to me when I first started. He was more of like a gamer than a professional, but I think now throughout his years competing, he's become more of a professional and more of a, you know, this is something that he wants to do for life and that he wants to win. So I'm super happy to see him grow into that. We could go Skewed, one of my brothers, another one. I'm super close to Skewed, actually. I'm close to him enough to where I think it's very annoying for him. But, you know, he looks at me as like his leader, so he always respects it. But, you know, just an amazing player. Who would have known he's such a good Brig player? Like, he came in, played Brigitte, and instantly became the best Brig in the world. So, you know, that's kind of crazy to think about, that a flex support player was the best Brig player in the whole entire league. You know, so it was just an honor to play with him and, you know, see him grow as a human and as a player. So I'm just happy for him. Shu, super amazing flex support player. Just unreal, like unbelievable mechanical skill. Like, he has a great mentality too, which I think a lot of people don't know, is that Shu is like a really good leader and just a good like father figure for a lot of the Korean players, especially because, you know, he's been in the league for so long. But, you know, just such a good player overall mechanically, and I'm super happy that people got to see it this year. You know, he got recognized for MVP almost, and, you know, he was made Overwatch history in grand finals versus Chengdu in the Countdown Cup. That clutch that he had was like history right there. So, you know, that was a big moment for him and a big moment for us in general.
Yeah, and he did it before as well against San Francisco Shock on La Havane as well, third point. He's crazy player. I think one of the flex support, the most underrated. I remember him at the beginning of Guangzhou Charge, and I was like, wow, Ana is amazing. And I talked with Neptuno, who played with him, and he said, he's Baptiste. He's awesome. You won't believe his Bap. And we saw it this year. So, yeah, I'm glad he's under the light a bit more, because there are a lot of really good flex support. We talked a lot about Jonak, Violet as well during the next season, and this year a bit more about Shu and Izayaki as well, but Shu in West region and Izayaki in the East. So yeah, I'm glad you picked him, honestly. Yeah,
he's insane. Definitely just an insane talent.
And he's funny, I think, right?
Yeah, he's a jokester. He's a really big jokester. Yeah, great personality, Shu.
So Muse and Birdring left.
Yeah, Muse Muse is another one that's kind of come into it more. Like, he's a rookie in the league. You know, he's a good competitor. He's been competing in contenders and open division before coming to Gladiators. But I think Muse in general, he didn't have the strongest mental. Like, he grew a lot throughout the year because, you know, he wasn't really used to losing. I think a lot of the times he competed, he would just kind of dominate everybody. Whenever he played before Overwatch League, his teams before, they would always do really good. So I think it's new to come into the league and, you know, actually play against the best teams in the world. And, you know, you play against like Shock, and you play against Atlanta, and you play against Dallas, you play against these hard teams where, you know, some scrims you don't always win, or some maps you don't always win. And, you know, it's something that it takes a strong mental to really get used to that and become a professional player. So I taught Muse a lot about, you know, how to do that better and how to approach that. And it made him also more of a leader too for our team. So I think, you know, Muse will always remember what I taught him, hopefully, and will carry that mentality into whatever he does. So I'm super happy that he got to show his talents and to show like more about what he is as a leader.
And I hope to see him next season because he has been released, such as Mirror as well from the Los Angeles Gladiators. And I wanted to ask you a question talking about Muse, because I counted in 4 years, Los Angeles Gladiators has played with 6 different main tanks. So as an off-tank player, what do you think about it? Why it didn't work? You said to us why it didn't work this year, but does Glad have a main tank curse or something like this?
Yeah, maybe main tank is not our best role when it comes to scouting. Maybe main tank hasn't been the best, but I don't know. It's very interesting. I think main tank in general as a role is it's super hard to find good players that play main tank at a really high level. You know, out of all the roles, I think like main tank and main support are probably the 2 hardest to find a really good player, and, you know, to kind of stick with them throughout all the years like some other teams have. I think Gladiators probably just got a little bit unlucky in terms of picking. I think, you know, a lot of the players that have played on Gladiators, or like in terms of the main tank role, they've grown a lot and, you know, become better after Gladiators. You know, they became better and went on to do really good things. So I hope it's the same with Muse. I hope he gets picked up again and gets to kind of show his talents and what he's learned from Gladiators. But, you know, it's just a hard role to get in general. I feel like for everybody, it's a super hard role, in that if you know, get a main tank player that you can stick with throughout all the years, then you're very lucky to get that.
Yeah, and you have the solution right now. I mean, Blizzard gave you the solution. Overwatch 2 only one tank. But if you're still looking for someone, we have Ben Best.
Yep.
I mean, he's a role model, a bit like you. You can advise him, and he can play main tank if you want.
Yeah. I think it's a good choice.
The last one, Space, I would like to hear about from you is Birdring. I saw the Gladiators video about his retirement, and I felt a lot of respect for the player and also for the man, and a lot of emotions as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot. You know, it's a lot to take in too when we found out that Birdring was retiring, because as I said in the interview, Birdring is someone that I watched when I was 16 years old. In this room, actually, that I'm in right now. I used to stay up late at night on my laptop. It wasn't this laptop. The laptop that I had actually exploded because I played so many video games on it. But I would lay in this bed at like 3 or 4 a.m. on a school night, and I would watch Korean contenders, and I would watch Birdring play, and I'd be like, wow, he's insane. You know, this guy is crazy. This guy's on another level, right? And when the league started, when I was first on Valiant, I remember one of my coaches had worked with Birdring, and he introduced me to Birdring, and I was like, oh, like, I cannot believe I just met that guy. And we shook hands, and I was like, what the heck? Like, I met Birdring and Rascal and all these other players that I'd been watching for so long, and I was finally meeting them in person. It was like a dream come true. And then to actually play with Birdring on the Gladiators, you know, to get to know him, and for him to kind of be like a brother to me, you know, I feel like I consider him family. It's just someone that, you know, I'm very close with. It's unreal. And there, like you said, there's so much respect for him in the Overwatch scene. like first in the Gladiators family, but just in Overwatch in general, he's like a legendary player. You know, so it sucks to see him go, but if that's what he wants, I think his career has been more than successful, and he will always be memorized as such an amazing player.
It's, I mean, it's always kind of a pressure when you meet someone you admire, because sometimes that person is not as good as you think he was. But finally, for you and the Glad with Birdring, it was even better.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of players that I met throughout the years that, you know, it's kind of insane to meet them, because like I watched these guys play. You know, I watched them play, and now I'm meeting the person, and I get to play with them. It's a dream come true, you know.
But that's funny, because you said to me that Moth was an example for you, a big star in your eyes, Birdring as well, but there are not off-tank player. I mean,
yeah, I think when it comes to off-tank, the off-tank players that I looked up to would probably be like Fury. I think Fury was, you know, if you remember, he was back on Liquid, and I used to watch him play when he was in Liquid, because he was one of the first Korean players that kind of came to North America and started playing in our region before the league. So I remember when Fury came, it was like a super big deal for us, because we had never like had a Korean player come play on our servers before, and he was just such an outstanding talent. And also Fury is someone that I'm very close with, and he's a good friend of mine, because we've been playing against each other for so many years now. But yeah, I remember meeting him was pretty crazy too, you know. So there's players in every role that I look up to. DPS, main tank, flex support, main support. It doesn't really matter what you play. Just there's so many great Overwatch players that, you know, I look up to in every role. Very close friends, and I'm happy to know them. You know, it's an honor to be able to know these players.
And to come back on Birdring, he said he wants to be a coach now. Do you think he can be a good coach?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, it's rare to have coaches that used to be players. I think coaches that used to be players and they become coaches, it's a different level of respect, I think, that people show, because, you know, it's someone that actually played in the league, and he's been through the pressure, and like, you know, he's been in your shoes before, so, you know, you kind of respect him differently, and you know that, you know, this guy knows what he's talking about, because obviously he's played at that level before. So I look forward to it. I hope there's more coaches that were players, you know, because I think that's a great way to build a good coach, is someone that has actually experienced it before, you know. So I hope a lot of players kind of find their way throughout that coaching, and it's something new to experience, you know. It's also something that you have to learn and get good at. It's not something where it's just like, oh, I'm a coach now, you know, I get to lay back and just watch these guys, you know what I mean? It's like something you have to kind of figure out that mentality, get used to that work, you know. So I think he could definitely do it, because it's Birdring. He showed himself as a player, and he could definitely show himself as a good coach.
Yeah, but it's, as you said, another job, another way of...
It's a whole new job.
Yeah. And talking about coaching space, can you talk a bit more about Deepay and his way of working? What kind of head coach is he? What does he bring to the team?
Okay, so Deepay is another one that has been around for a long time. He used to coach Kungurna before, if you know that, with like Baby Bay, Bishu, and Remix. You know, I remember I used to play against those guys all the time, like 2016. And Deepay was their head coach, and he was one of like the big reasons why they had so much success, I think was because of Deepay. But he is also very similar to me. He's been growing a lot throughout the years as a head coach and as a leader, you know, because it's something new for him too, coming into the league and working with players from all over the world. It's new for all these coaches, so I think a lot of coaches have had to learn a lot. And since I've been working with Deepay, and since I've known him since the start of my career, I've seen him grow, and I've seen him get better as like a leader and as a coach. He's a super smart coach in terms of just understanding the game. He's very smart, and I think he's just been growing more as like a leader and, you know, getting closer to everybody on the team. So he does a really good job at that, and he doesn't get enough credit when we succeed. He definitely doesn't get enough credit, and you know how it is. Coaches will always get the most blame when you aren't doing good. but when you do good, it goes to all the players. So it's just a hard job to be in general. But I think he's grown so much over the years, and eventually he will get his championship for sure, and he will get his recognition for being a good head coach.
Yeah, and he's been here from the start with Los Angeles Gladiators. That's the only coach who stayed as long in the same team. And as you said, it's not because you have like 6 all-star player then it's gonna work. Because that's the problem. Sometimes we are like, look at Washington Justice team, look at the Los Angeles Gladiators team. Why it doesn't work? It's not because of the player, it's because of the coach. But as you said, that's not always true. That can be true, but that's not the case for Glad.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think when you look at the league in general, especially this year, there's so many teams that have all-star rosters. You got Dallas Fuel, you got Washington Duchess, you got Atlanta, you got Shanghai, so many teams, and even more than that, just so many teams where it's like you have all these great rosters, and it's a mix of both. You need great players, and you need good coaches, and then you need them to kind of synergize and mesh as one. And I think Shanghai did it the best this year, but I think any team could have done it. I think especially in playoffs, all the teams in playoffs could have won. I'm 100% certain that we could have seen Washington as a championship. We could have seen Atlanta as a championship. We could have seen Gladiators. We could have seen Shock. All these teams that made it to playoff. Chengdu, even all these teams that made it. I'm confident they could have won, but Shanghai took it away this year. So I think even next year it's going to be even closer. It's going to be even closer year for sure, and we might see someone completely different.
Hopefully, the level will keep increasing every year. Talking about next season, Space, the transition is perfect. 2022 will begin with a big turn for the OWL. New game, Overwatch 2. Are you rather worried, curious, or enthusiastic about it?
I'm definitely super enthusiastic and excited because for me, it's a completely new game. I think a lot of people don't really realize yet that it's not just changing for the tanks. It's going to change for everybody. I think as you saw, like with the beta, there was like Bastion rework, a Sombra rework. A lot of the characters are getting changed. Zarya was different. Reinhardt was different. So I think the whole game in general is going to be a new game. So it's going to be exciting for everybody to play. And just for me in general, I'm looking forward to learn, to, watching it get played, and just it's something new, you know what I mean, which is always refreshing and always exciting. So I'm just excited in general to get to play it.
And you played a bit of Overwatch 2 during the playoffs in Hawaii. What can you tell us? What was your experience?
It was a super early beta what we got to play, and I think a lot of the characters weren't actually in it yet, so some of them were still being worked on. But we got to kind of play test it and let them know like what we thought was good, what was not so good. But for me, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed there was like new sounds, like new audio, new map, new UI. Kind of like the layout of the game was different. So I enjoyed it. I thought it looked good. I thought it felt good. It felt really smooth to me. So I'm just excited to see how it goes. Like in the future, throughout the year, it's going to be completely different and it's going to keep changing. So I'm looking forward to that.
How much time did you play the game?
About 2 hours, maybe, I'd say, like two and a half hours.
And you said in the plat chat that you swapped the role, right? You just didn't play off tank. I mean, not off tank, but brawler or tank or whatever.
The tank in general, yeah. They didn't show it in the video because for the video, they wanted us to be on our main role. So I was the tank player, and then everyone else played the roles that they're assigned to. But when we were playing like the other games, I played like some support. I played some DPS. My widow was crazy, but we played a lot of different roles. But just to experience it, so that everyone could experience every character. And, it was fun. I had a good time on all the roles.
And so you said you played it 2 hours, and in 2 hours. You were able to become the best tank in Overwatch 2. How does it feel?
Yeah, it feels good. I'm currently looking for offers of 200 million a year.
200 now. It's not just 2 million, it's 200.
No,
okay.
No,
the bidding war is coming.
So, I'm looking to be on like Messi and Ronaldo's level at this point. But yeah, so it was really fun to play, and I was one of the first players to ever play test it before. So it's kind of like history, and that is just like you get to be one of the first people to ever play it besides the developers. So that was just kind of mind blowing to me that we got to actually play test something like that. But you know, it's going to be the next season is going to be a crazy journey, and we're going to see a lot of new players, a lot of different players playing a completely new game.
Is it the same excitement that when Overwatch 1 came out? I mean, during the beta, I remember some players, they were like, okay, I want to focus on this game right now. Overwatch 1 is crazy. Is it the same with Overwatch 2, or between all the pro player, actually, when you talked about it, is it more like, wait and see? I'm not convinced right now.
Yeah, I think for us right now, it's more just a wait and see, because I think what the current state of Overwatch is right now in terms of like Overwatch 1, there's so much more that we could be getting for our game, and there's a lot that people want to see change. There's a lot to see, but I think because the devs have been working on Overwatch 2 for so long now, they've been working on it for like 2 or 3 years now. There hasn't been that much love in the first Overwatch, you know, there hasn't been that much attention and care for that one. So what we're all expecting is that Overwatch 2 will come out, and that will, you know, it'll be all about Overwatch 2. All the focus will be on that. And that'll kind of bring back that excitement and that joy that everyone has. So for now, we're just kind of waiting and seeing, like, okay, you know, is this going to live up to the expectations, or, you know, is it going to be that legendary game that Overwatch was when it so that's what we all want to see. And, you know, this time we actually get to have some impact on it because we're Overwatch League players. So we're going to try our best to make sure it's that game that everyone wants to play.
And what was your feeling? I mean, the feeling was great. It's an very early version of the game, but the feeling was good. The 5v5. I mean, what does it change? Because you said that it's not only for the tank; it's changed for everyone.
Yeah. So for me personally, it felt more like a lot of individual play has more impact than in Overwatch 1. You know, Overwatch 1 is more like team based. Sometimes it's a lot harder to win unless all 6 of your players are playing really good. I think in Overwatch 2, it'll be a little bit more easier to win if one player makes a super big play. You know, you guys have more potential to actually win and snowball off that. So I think we'll see a lot more individual players getting highlighted and individual carries than we did in the first game. It was one of my biggest feelings that I like. And other than that, I think just the pacing, they have to get used to it more, because it's not a lot of alt fights like it used to be.
Yeah.
It was more kind of just like mechanical stuff. Like, you know, you don't really worry about the ults as much. You just worry like killing them before they get their ults. So that's kind of something that was interesting. And I think as they work on it, it'll get definitely more balanced and polished, and, like, you know, they'll figure it out more. But that was two of the things that I noticed.
But there are still a lot of work, and the OWL 2022 season will start in April. Ideally, when would you like to be able to practice again, to play on Overwatch 2 space?
Hopefully as soon as possible.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully. I hope it starts next month. You know what I mean? We definitely want to play it. We definitely want to test it more. And, you know, I think the devs are working very, very hard on it right now to make sure that it's ready for when we actually start competing. But, you know, I'm sure we will have more impact throughout these next few months. We're going to get definitely more impact and get to see it more.
But did Blizzard give you a date when you will be able to play Overwatch 2 again? Or at least a month? Or you just don't know right now?
Right now, I think nobody knows yet. I don't even think the developers know yet when it's going to be ready. But we're just patiently waiting, you know. And I think we got to test it early and got to see like what that looked like and what it felt like. But, you know, hopefully the next date comes within the next like 2 or 3 months, so we get to actually start practicing really hard.
But how do you prepare a team, and how do you prepare yourself for next season on a game you can't even play on?
It's gonna be hard for sure. I think it's gonna be a lot of learning for everyone. I think it's just, you know, making sure that, for me personally, I think it's just being confident in my abilities as a player, and knowing that, you know, I'm more than just a Diva player. I'm more than just a Sigma player. I can't. It's not that I can only play those two characters. It's just that that's my job. That's what I have to focus on for the league. I have to be more confident that I'm good at Overwatch the game and that I can play any character in that game. And I think if you have that mentality, you know what I mean, and it's because you're gonna have to learn something new no matter what role you play. So if you keep that mentality, you'll be good.
Space, talking about next season, we are currently seeing a lot of departures, players release, retirements as well. Off-season is already crazy. Were you expecting that?
Yeah, I think definitely since something new is coming up in terms of Overwatch 2, I think, and a lot of the players that you're seeing go right now, like Birdring himself, I know Sabi just posted today that he's also retiring. It's just players that have been playing for like 8 to 9 years now. Like, so yeah, players that have been playing since the game literally came out. The day that the game came out, these guys have been playing. So I think a lot of them just, like I said, that when that passion kind of goes away for their competition and the love for the game and the love for competing, when that kind of fades away, I think, I shouldn't compete. I should try and do something different. Whether you're staying in esports or you're staying in Overwatch or, becoming like a content creator or a streamer or, just doing something completely different. I think a lot of people have started to realize like that's what they want to do. And, I think we'll support all of them in that.
Yeah, but sometimes you have no choice and the team is just released you.
Yeah, that's true also, and I think that's just an opportunity for you to prove yourself somewhere else.
Is it something you're following closely, every move, every player release, arrival? Do you talk much with your teammates or people from other team, or you're just like, I'm fine for next season, so I just want to rest right now?
Yeah, I think it's definitely kind of a mixture for me right now. It's something where it's like I want to keep paying close attention to everybody and everybody's moves, and the Gladiators moves and every other organ. And also just making sure that I'm resting well and taking care of myself and, being ready for the next season because it's going to be like this season was. It'll be a long one and it'll be hard and you have to work every day. So making sure that you get a good break is very important, but it's also very important to keep up to date with all the moves that are going on right now. And this season, there's happening.
We are not prepared.
Yeah, we definitely not prepared. It's gonna be a crazy offseason for sure. This one.
But with only 3 players gone for now for the Gladiators, it seems that team is betting on stability for next season.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of organizations and a lot of teams want to, stay in a kind of comfort zone with players that you've worked with before and players that can represent you well, and it won't be a big change in terms of like getting used to somebody new completely. You know what I mean? So I think that's good. A lot of teams want to keep at least 2 to 3 players that they've been working with from the last years.
Space, can you reassure the fans Gladiators will stay ambitious next year?
Most definitely, yeah. And I think it doesn't really matter who's on the roster, what players are on the roster. I think just the mentality that the organization has and our GM Brenda has and Deepe has as a coach will always be a competitor that's trying to make playoffs and trying to get the chip. It'll always be that kind of team, always be that kind of organization. And I think this year was by far the closest we've ever gotten. I think to the point where everybody expected us to win and everybody expected us to be in the finals. Sadly, we didn't make it, but we're going to use what we learned from this year to make sure that we can make it next year.
And hopefully you're going to keep the best player in the team. Kevster has already resigned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's there. The go is there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure that a lot of teams were waiting to see him being released, but that's not the case. Yeah. Kevster is still a Lions next season. And what about you? Will you be there next season, Space?
We'll see. It's definitely it's a really early for me in the off season, so I definitely want to explore all my options. I have a lot of teams that are interested in me and a lot of players that are interested in playing with me, and I'm just kind of relaxing for now and waiting to see which team I feel like I'm gonna fit in most comfortably with. It definitely could be the Gladiators because I'm super comfortable here. I know everybody here, and this is like a family to me. but I will just see what I feel like is best when the time comes. You know, so it could be crazy. You know, just stay on the lookout.
What are you looking for in a team? I mean, you say you have the choice right now. So what is important for you? 20 million. We understand that, but what else?
I think for me personally, it's definitely the intent of the organization. I think that the organization is super important to me. If it's one that I know like players are on and it's well organized and can be trusted, which I know Gladiators already is because I've been here for so long. So the organization is super important to me, and like what we play for and what we represent is, and also just the players. You know, I mean, I think there's a lot of players that I've been friends with for 5 years, like since I started playing, and I haven't had the opportunity to play with them on the same team in Overwatch League. So, you know, if I could have that opportunity, then that's somewhere that I don't want to be, right? So I think that's super important to me also, is just like the players and the organization. And, you know, that's one of the two biggest things right there. And I can kind of be myself there and be a competitor, which is what I want.
Can you remind us who are your best friend in the OWL?
Super, Dante, you know, there's honestly so many players, but in terms of like players that I played with from way back, I think the main two would be Super and Dante, really are the ones, and obviously Moth, who I'm with on Gladiators. But you know, there's so many players that I've been friends with for a super long time, and I haven't had the opportunity to actually play with them on an Overwatch League team. And you know, that's something that would interest me, something that I would be looking forward to doing.
So just a few questions to end the interview. How long will we have to wait until your decision space? Because now everyone is on. Adibu will call me after the interview saying, "What the fuck with space?"
I mean, I honestly, it's super early. I just became a free agent. Today is it's October 10th. We're recording this right now.
Okay.
But I became a free agent yesterday on the 9th. So the talks are getting started right now. You know, it's just now starting. So you know, it could be any direction. It could go any way. I think for me personally, it'll take a while to decide, because I already know I have Gladiators that they really want me. So it'll take a little bit longer for me to decide where I want to go. But you know, we'll see. It'll probably be in the later area of the off season. Whenever I figure it out.
For Christmas, people will have a good or a bad present for Christmas.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Space, to end the interview, other than answering to my questions, what do you do in the off season to enjoy life?
Okay, so for me, the off seasons, I always come home no matter what. I always come back to New York City to see my family, because I haven't seen them for at least a year. You know, so I come here, you know, stay with my grandma, see my mom, see my pops, see all those people. And then I've really wanted to travel. Sadly, because COVID kind of came in, I didn't have the opportunity wanted to, but you know, I want to go to Japan, go to Europe, London, Sweden, and do a little world tour and get to see everything and experience everything myself. So I really want to do that. You know, might be able to do it this off season. I might not. We'll see what happens. But you know, if I go out there to France, we'll go grab a drink, and I'll definitely get to meet all my French fans. But that's kind of the biggest thing for me, is I want to meet a lot of fans that I never had the opportunity to meet. So that's one of my things, is just kind of go travel the world and see every place, you know, rather than just coming to New York and staying here. I want to go travel around while I can. Yeah,
and you have the opportunity to take that kind of break, because next season will be on Overwatch 2, and maybe you don't really have to keep playing every day Overwatch right now.
Yep, definitely not. You have a much longer break than we've had in the past.
Space, thank you very much once again for coming to speak to the French community, which have many fans, and not just Adibu. I wish you great holidays, and I also wish you to win the OWL one day. You're 21, so you can still believe in it.
Yeah, I have a long time to get this Overwatch championship. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. Thank you, all my French friends. I love you guys so much. Without the French players that I played with, you know, Soon, uNKOE, Damon, even AKM and Poco, the players that I played against, I've learned so much from them. I've learned so much from that community. So I hope to come out there and see you guys one day and actually get to meet you all. But until then, love you all so very much. Thank you for having me for your 100th episode too, as well. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Yeah, so much love to everybody that watches this.
Thank you very much, Space.
Thank you.